You reach the end of the day, you realize you spent all your time meeting everyone else's needs, but nothing moved forward in what God called you to build. Friend, when everyone else needs you, time management stops being about productivity and starts being about survival. In today's episode, we're talking about how caregivers and high-capacity women can steward their time with discernment, peace, and obedience instead of guilt and exhaustion. Grab your notebook and pen, and let's dig in. If you're tired of juggling work, family, big business dreams, but long for the focus and courage to finally step out in obedience, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Lanisha, life coach and kingdom entrepreneur. I know what it takes to demolish fear and rise in bold identity while building a business that glorifies God and leaves a harvest that outlives you. Are you ready to dive in? Grab your journal and cup of joe because we're going straight from the secret place into strategy. It's time to build boldly. Before we go any further, I want to start here. If you are a nurse, a caregiver, or a woman who has spent years taking care of everyone else, this is going to hit home. Because in nursing, we are trained to manage multiple lives at once. And I want to dig into nursing today because I am a nurse and I understand. So I'm talking to my nurses, my caregivers, anybody that is taking care of someone else today. You are not just caring for patients. You're caring for families. You're educating, you're explaining, you're coordinating, you're advocating. You are anticipating needs before they're ever even spoken. You can be in one patient's room giving medication, and then your phone's ringing because dietary is bringing the lunch tray. The CNA is calling you because your blood sugar's high. Now you've got to go pull insulin for that one patient, but maybe you have 4 patients that are all AccuCheck and you got to give everybody insulin. Physical therapy is looking for you because they've got to coordinate time to exercise with the patient. Occupational therapy might come and see them separately, so they're also calling you. Speech therapy is also calling you so that they can go and test the patient to see if they're going to be able to eat. Radiology is calling because a CT scan is ready, so maybe you've got to take the patient to CT if you're working ICU. A family member is asking for an update. Another family member is asking for an update. A patient's alarm is going off down the hall. Their IV's beeping. It's super annoying. They want you in their stat. And all of this is happening at the same time. You are pulled in 10 different directions. You're expected to remain calm and present and compassionate and competent in every single situation. And then we wonder why at the end of the day, we feel depleted. That same pattern doesn't magically disappear when you clock out. You tap the badge on that time clock. Many of us carry this same responsibility at home. We manage the household. We manage all the appointments. We manage all the emotions. We manage everybody's needs. We manage all the expectations. And then on top of that, God places this vision in your heart to build something meaningful, a business, a ministry, a calling. And suddenly time management is no longer about planners and productivity hacks. It's literally about survival. And I want to say something out loud that many women feel like they can't ever admit it. They're not allowed to admit it. This is how they feel. Some of us are not overwhelmed because we lack the discipline. We're overwhelmed because people depend on us. Our time is not always flexible. It's demanded. And if you're anything like me, you are one of the people that everybody calls when something breaks. You're the one who remembers all of the appointments, all of the due dates for the bills. You're the one who notices what everyone else overlooks. You notice the things that are low and the things that are empty. That needs to be refilled. That needs to be wiped down. That needs to be cleaned. You're the one that carries the emotional weight of the room. You can tell. You walk into a room, you can discern it. You know what's going on in the atmosphere. You are the one who pours out to everyone. But that's not always reciprocated. You'd love it to be that way, but it's not. Most of the time. And somewhere along the way, time management stopped being about planning and started being about endurance. This episode is not about doing more. It's about stewarding what you already carry, and this is what I want to talk to you about today. Point number 1, high capacity does not mean unlimited capacity. Being capable doesn't mean being assigned. So just because you can carry it doesn't mean that God asked you to. In Exodus 18, this is a really good example. It gives us one of the clearest and most loving corrections that God ever gave a leader. And if you remember this story, if you've read this, Moses was doing exactly what many high-capacity women do. He was showing up, I'm sure. He was showing up early and probably staying late and answering every question and solving every problem. And he was carrying that full weight of leadership because he probably believed that that was faithfulness. And yet his father-in-law, Jethro, looked at him and he said something that should stop every caregiver in their tracks. What you are doing is not good. You will surely wear yourself out, both you and these people with you. For the thing is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it alone. And Moses was super anointed. He was chosen. He heard God clearly. And still, God didn't expect him to carry everything himself. Here is the part that is often missed in this. God didn't rebuke him for carrying. He was correcting him for carrying too much and teaching him what to do with that. And so the solution wasn't less responsibility, because some of us really are called to all of this responsibility that we have, even though it looks ridiculous to some people who don't do as much, and they look and they're like, wow, that person is really like over the top. They're doing too much. But it's not about less responsibility. It's about shared responsibility. And that's how a lot of people are so successful, because they know how to delegate. They know how to delegate to their team and to say, hey, I need you to do this, because they know how to do those things. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm going to talk about this in another point. But Jethro told Moses to teach the people God's ways and then appoint capable, trustworthy leaders to carry portions of the load. So Moses had to learn to trust others with work that he had been holding tightly. And how many of us are like that? We have a baby that we're building, and maybe you're thinking about building something, but you don't know who to trust. You don't know where to go to. And that similar thing with Moses. He had to learn how to trust these people. He had to release control, and he had to believe that God could work through more than just him. And I need you to understand that delegation is not weakness. It's freedom. It's obedience, because when you delegate, you experience this freedom mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because you're now free to do the things that someone else cannot do. There are certain things that only you can do. And my nurses are going to understand this, because when we delegate, we have to do so much that there's certain things that only we can do that are high priority things that the CNA can't do for us. So if we have to go and give, you're going to go hang chemo. If you're a chemo nurse, or you have to go and give a certain injection, maybe you've got to go give some blood. Well, the CNA can't give the blood, but guess what they can do? They can go down to the blood bank and grab the blood for you. And then you can go ahead and hang it and get your second nurse to come and witness with you, things like that. There are certain things that only you can do, that only you are, authorized to do, you're licensed to do, that other people cannot. And that's the whole point of delegation. That is how you get further. And this is how these hospitals operate. And also, rehab facilities, nursing homes, all these places, everybody has somebody that they have to delegate to. And some of you are exhausted because you're still doing everything that God intended to be distributed. You're leading like everything depends on you. And God already designed community and structure and shared responsibility to protect us. And I understand too that some of you are in this position where you are alone or you feel alone. But in this particular situation, if you are in that situation, get very specific about your prayers and ask the Lord to bring you the people that are your destiny helpers and resources so that you can delegate to do what he has called you to do. Now, Moses had to learn that leadership doesn't mean doing everything. Leadership means stewarding people and empowering others, uplifting others, and trusting God to work beyond your hands, beyond your capabilities, beyond your vision. And this is where many high-capacity women struggle. We say, oh, it's just easier if I do it. Or we say, no one else is going to do it right. No one else is going to do it the way that I do it. Or I'll delegate later when things calm down. But God wasn't asking Moses to wait for relief. He was asking him to restructure before collapse. If this is something that you struggle with, I'd love to help walk through it with you in coaching. God isn't impressed by how much you can endure. He's interested in how well you steward your strength and the resources he gives you. Ask yourself this honestly. Father, where am I still carrying what you intended to be shared? And who have you already placed around me that I need to trust? Point number 2, discernment is the time management tool for the woman who is needed. Look, everyone needs you. Calendars alone are not going to save you. Discernment is your greatest time management tool. Do not be led by emotion. I know that is super hard. We are women. We like to be led by our hearts and how we feel and all the things. No, we need to be led by discernment. You must use wisdom and discernment. Not every need is an assignment. Not every request requires a response. And not every open door is God. In Mark chapter 1, after Jesus healed many and he casted out demons and people came looking for him early the next morning, there was needs everywhere. Expectation everywhere, opportunity everywhere for Jesus. And yet he withdrew to pray. He was also never in a hurry. And when the disciples found him and said, everyone's looking for you, Jesus didn't rush back. He said, let us go on to the next towns that I may preach there also. Like he was chill all the time. Jesus chose obedience over accessibility. And when you say yes to everyone, you will eventually say no to God. Not intentionally, but Because you have so many other yeses out there, your yes to the Lord can't be fulfilled. What did he ask you to do? What did he ask you to steward? And some of you feel behind, not because you're lazy, but because your energy is being poured into things that are not aligned with your assignment. How many things are you saying yes to that are taking you away from what you're supposed to be doing? Ask yourself honestly, and then ask the Lord, Father, what needs are pulling me away from what you asked me to steward? Point number 3, guilt is not how God leads. Guilt is not a fruit of the Spirit. Many high-capacity women have learned to respond to guilt faster than they respond to God. We were taught early to be reliable, agreeable, available. And over time, that conditioning can disguise itself as humility or service, when in reality, it's fear of disappointing people, or maybe it's people-pleasing that you're still dealing with. But God doesn't lead his daughters through pressure. He leads us through peace. In Romans 8, verse 1, it tells us there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation and guilt are not tools that God uses to direct our steps. They are indicators that something is pulling you out of alignment with his voice. And guilt says, if I don't do this, I'm selfish. But Holy Spirit leads us and tells us that if we obey, then the Lord's going to handle the outcome. He always does. Guilt keeps us constantly explaining to people. And when we are walking in obedience, we are anchored to Christ. And many of you feel drained, not because you're disobedient, but because you're overly obedient to people. You say yes because you're afraid of the relational fallout. You carry the emotional weight that was never yours to hold. And slowly, the joy that you once had in serving begins to erode. In Colossians 3, verse 15, it says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. The word rule here means to act as an umpire. Peace decides what stays and what goes. And if peace leaves you when you say yes, then the yes wasn't from God. And if peace returns to you when you say no, then that no was obedience. I hope that helps somebody today. This is where a lot of women have to be healed. A lot of us need some healing still. We all have to walk through that. There are certain things that we are hurt from that we need to be healed from, to be able to operate the way that we're supposed to the full capacity. You are not unloving for having limits. You are not disobedient for setting boundaries. You're not selfish for choosing obedience over expectation. And when you come and sit with me in sessions, we uncover that guilt has been the loudest voice sometimes in decision-making. And once those things are exposed, clarity really comes fast and peace starts to come back and your energy stabilizes and confidence in hearing God's voice begins to strengthen in your life. So ask yourself gently, Father, where has guilt been shaping my decisions instead of my peace? And who am I afraid of disappointing more than you? Point number 4, God multiplies what is properly ordered. God doesn't multiply from chaos. He blesses stewardship. He multiplies when there is order and structure. And order is not control. Order is honor. In Proverbs 24, verse 27, it says, prepare your work outside. Get everything ready for yourself in the field. And after that, build your house. There is a sequence in the kingdom. So that should tell you that in that verse. It tells you to get prepared, get everything ready. And then after that, you begin building. That sequence means that there is a timing. There is an order. And some of you are frustrated because you're trying to build everything at one time. And God is inviting you to prioritize so that you can breathe again. This is part of the triage framework that I work through with you in our one-on-one sessions. This full schedule, us having a full schedule can be draining, but a fruitful one will multiply. There's nothing wrong with having a full schedule. It's just how you balance and steward it that is manageable and brings you fruit. When you honor what God placed in your hands, clarity increases, your authority strengthens, and your peace returns. We have to operate in peace so that we can produce fruit. And so ask yourself and ask the Lord, Father, what needs to be reordered so that I can steward this season well? Quick recap, being capable does not mean being assigned. Discernment protects your time. Guilt is not how God leads. And order creates margin and peace. Friend, if this episode spoke to you, I want to invite you into our Christian Women Entrepreneurs community on Facebook. It's facebook.com/group/Christian Women Entrepreneurs. And this is a space where all of us as women are carrying a lot and we are learning to steward it well. And we're learning to steward it with God at the center. And if you know that you need mentorship and spiritual clarity around your time, your calling, your capacity, you can visit my website at theconsecratedceo.com/coaching to learn about one-on-one mentorship with me. And listen, sister friend, God sees the weight that you carry. He's not asking you to collapse under it. He is teaching you how to steward it with wisdom, grace, and peace. Take a deep breath. You can do this. Until next time, build with the King. Hey, Kingdom friend, I pray today's episode stirred something in your spirit. If it did, would you take a few seconds to share it with a few women who you know this would resonate with? And if you haven't yet, I would be honored if you could leave a quick review. It helps this message reach more women who are ready to rise. All right, time to strap myself down and laser focus on all the things. No squirrel zone. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Until then, keep building boldly.